classes before. This one I always present because I just like it. It shows what we're talking about. If I walk into a commercial broker and start talking about 1031, they're going to say, well, why? We don't care about 121. We don't sell houses. And I'm going to say, well, gee, the same people that have those big properties probably have a big home, a home with gains in excess of the 250 or 500. So, understand that, and a little nugget of knowledge. You're helping them with the investment stuff. You might want to help them with a potential home sale in the future. And by the way, that's going to lead to purchases for you probably. And on the other hand, if I walk into a residential brokerage and strictly talk about, they're thinking, well, gee, I don't want to really hear about 1031. I deal with owner-occupied properties. Well, how often does the 250 or 500 cover somebody's sale these days? So, what do you do with the gains in excess of the 250 or 500? Well, this is an example of what you do. Another example would be, if you don't want to do this exercise, you can go out and buy a QOZ, a Qualified Opportunity Zone. Those things would help mitigate some of the tax exposure on the gains in excess of the 250 or 500. But if we look at this transaction, these guys were facing a $1 million tax hit. They didn't like that idea. So one of their lawyers said, hey, go talk to Equity Advantage. They came in, we sat down, talked to them, said, okay, hey, move out of the home. So they had a property in Los Angeles, California, $3 million in gain. We said, move out of the house. They went and bought the new home they wanted. They didn't rent the house, they just held it for investment, and they held it for a period of time that was comfortable for they and their tax people, and it was in excess of a year. And by the way, there is no required hold in Section 1031. If somebody asks me, I'm going to say a year based on two factors. One, it's been proposed several times, and two, that's the break between short and long-term tax rates in today's world. So I think, who are we to argue with the federal government on how long is long enough? But people want to say, well, code says 2 years. It does not say that. If I'm swapping properties with my brother, that's a related party transaction. There's a 2-year hold there. But even in that scenario, there's not an absolute. So understand, it's really up to you and your tax. I can give you a court case for 4 months was long enough. I don't think that's different tax years looks better than the same year, but a year is something I'm typically comfortable with. But you need to talk to your tax people, see where he or she, your tax counsel, is comfortable, and work with them on it, because if you have a question on it, you want them standing by your side. So they moved out of the property, season it for long enough to qualify it as an investment property. As long as they sell it within 3 years of moving out, they're still entitled to 250 or 500, which they did. They took the $500,000 exclusion they were entitled to. The overage went into 1031, and they bought 24 different replacement properties, closing them all inside the 45 days because the husband was a lawyer, the wife was a CPA. She knew she didn't want to deal with that 95% rule, so she got all the purchases done inside the 45 days. She went from $1 million tax hit to 0 taxes. And I think that's a pretty neat example of what you can do when you take the time. You can leave 1031 to be a settlement action, but I would not do that. Don't look at it that way. Investigate what you got. Look at your potential tax consequences. Look at what options might be available. Ask those questions, and maybe we can help you out. All right. So this is a situation that really worked out well for these people, and just a testimony to what can be done with proper planning.